Hi guys, welcome back to the show. Today we have Ryan Muirhead here with me. He is one of my best friends, I will say first and foremost, and also a bit of a creative genius. He is a film photographer. And how long have you been shooting film? Sorry.
I don't like 15 years, 15 or 16 years now.
Yeah, so
Just making me feel very old to say, but yeah.
We're both realizing that we're old and just seeing how long we've known each other and all these questions. But it's been 12 years. Really us, like when we first met, we just immediately kind of like got into it where we started creating and really ended up just having, like thousands and thousands of photos from our collaborations. And it just felt so right that you were the first person that I had here. I really want to get into your story, but I wanted to tell you that like what you've done for me and really do a little breakdown on that. So we met about 12 years ago, I just asked. Yeah. And when we met, I kind of I was coming from I was in the Las Vegas model scene. So I don't know, it's a whole different genre of when my photos were sent over to Ryan, it was like extremely edited, like crazy, just makeup and edit. Like I didn't even look like myself. And at that point it was like there was so much of me kind of like trying to figure out like who I was. I was young. I was like 20 and then, you know, when I like got a chance to meet Ryan, it was like if you know his photos, like, you know, he doesn't put any filters. Like it's like this whole unfiltered world that I was not like aware of. And like he just totally saw me for exactly as who I was and appreciated and like saw the beauty in me. And I think that it was really cool for me to meet him at the age that I was and have that experience. Like you always say there's like that one first person who like meets you and sees you. And like you're that first person for me.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And that person just changes the rest of your life. Like I'm just so grateful that opportunity like came to me so young, because I feel like I would be like 10 years behind if I never met you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I would be such a different person right now. But that goes to say, I don't know. What is that? I don't know. That goes without saying.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for your coming into my life, everything that you've done for me. And I really want to get into your story of like how you kind of like found film and yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can tell you some of that, and hopefully I can end up at the day we met too. So
yeah,
I can tell
we need to circle back. We need to circle back to that.
I kind of got into photography mostly out of like depression, desperation. I grew up Mormon. It was not a very great fit for me. By the time I was like 26 or 27, I was really anxious, really depressed. I had had a lot of mental health challenges mixed with some really intense physical health challenges too. I was having stomach and digestive problems. I was in a ton of pain. I wasn't sleeping. And I was a camera assistant on movies and TV shows. And I was just not doing well at all. And I talk a lot now, but I was really shy and introverted. It was really hard for me to speak my mind, for me to say what was going on with me. And I made a friend who was a makeup artist on one of the movies. And like, I don't know, she could just tell stuff was going on with me. And she used to like put eyeliner on me during lunch, which was like a big deal for me, being like a shy, conservative Mormon kid. Yeah. But I was looking for some thing that could be this outward expression of how I felt inside, which is really like Art 101 of what it's all about, but I wasn't really into that. And she, I think, suggested that I take some photos and like take some photos of another person
Mm-hmm.
And I had this like, oh, I'd be way too shy to do that. Like,
Yeah.
that'd make me so nervous. I don't even know what I'm doing. And she offered
Yeah.
to model for me. She said, like, you
Wow.
can take pictures of me. Like, I have this cool looking white dress. I'll bring it to set.
Yeah.
We can just shoot somewhere where the light's already nice. So you won't have to like worry that much about that. And that was like one of the first shoots I ever did. And then she showed like people the photos. And
Mm-hmm.
it was such an introduction to me of like, oh, like there is a lot going on with me internally that I am not capable of articulating, or I'm brave enough to say out loud,
Mm-hmm.
but it's building up to a point of like a problem, and you need some vehicle, you need some thing to do to get this stuff out.
And I think, I think that that's that was such a connecting point between you and I, is that we both come from like very conservative families. There's a lot of like built up internal, a lot of things left unsaid, unfelt, like unreleased. Just like, I think shame just compiles like that. It just kind of like, you just swallow it and you just like take more and more. And then it's like, well, what is the out? Like, there has to be some way of this coming out. And I really I love to remind myself of that, like just in my day-to-day life, because I'm like, oh, people are really just like trying to let it out sometimes. And if they don't have an outlet, any kind of outlet, it just comes out as like this anger and resentment naturally. But like, that us having like a creative outlet was like the release for me, so that I could actually like become who I wanted to be, like a person that I liked, but without like it being free a little, or like getting out at all. I just don't feel like I ever would have come into myself.
Yeah. And working with you, it hit such a different level, or a different way of kind of addressing that, because before we met, I had kind of just started shooting with models,
Yeah.
There was like Model Mayhem or whatever, and you write models in your area, and then you set up these shoots, and you do like shoot on railroad tracks and with crazy hairstyles or whatever. And it was fine. The point was just to like meet people and take beautiful photos, which is so fun. And like, it was such a positive experience and activity for me.
Mm-hmm.
But after a couple of years of doing that, and I got decently talented at doing it, and I built kind of like an online following, I had a really specific night of reflection, actually, where someone had written me and that they were jealous of me, that they like wished they were me or doing what I was doing. And I was still so anxious and depressed. Yeah. And it really gave me this specific night of reflection of like, is the thing I'm outputting, is the product I'm sharing because I'm feeling all this stuff, does it have anything to do with why I've been doing this? Is it any reflection? Like I wanted to start doing this because I needed an outlet for these specific feelings and experiences. And now you're like working with models and stylists, and not that it has to, but does the work you're sharing with the world have anything to do with this story? And when I was looking at it, I just tried to answer that for myself. And some of it did, because like I had so many issues around like bodies and sexuality and genders and all that, working with models and stuff sort of, tangentially touched on that just in a small way. But I had this feeling of like, yeah, I wouldn't really say the work I'm outputting matches the feelings that were behind me wanting to do this. And that night, I kind of made a goal to start sharing more of why I was doing that. And if I didn't know how to put that into the work yet, at least I was going to talk about it.
Oh my God, that part. It's like, you're almost like it was, well, I mean, it's beautiful, because when I think about what you just said, it just shows like you're getting in almost like, I don't want to break this down in such a masculine, yucky taken out of the situation way, but it's almost like it was this, what it was you kind of getting the reps in. Like you were, I mean, but you were still, you had the intention and you were working towards that and like moving towards that. And that was just through you sharing. Like, I mean, if it were not for you speaking how you speak, when we met on a film show. The first time I ever even saw Ryan, like the first minute and moments of me meeting him was him speaking to a group of people. And I was his model for that day. So I walk in and he's just like doing exactly what he's saying right now. He was like speaking about his work in a way where he was saying the intention behind him, the output behind what he was doing. And it was like, at that point, I don't feel like you really even got there yet.
Yeah, I'd say it still wasn't there.
Yeah, but I was receiving what you were saying. And it was still so beautiful. All the work was so beautiful, but it was like you were sitting there saying what you wanted your work to feel like.
Yeah.
And I was like, got it. So just like hearing that really just put this all in perspective. Like I didn't even think about that element of it, but I mean, that was the first time I ever met you, was you talking about what you wanted to make.
I think that was a really big moment for me, and maybe something I try to pass on, because yeah, I had the thought of like, if you want something different than what you're doing or what you feel you're capable of, but you haven't put it out there in a way that someone could meet you with that information, how are you expecting it to change? You know, I just kept setting up shoots over and over and over and over and hoping like one day these will feel more emotional. One day these will feel more intimate. One day these will feel more personal. But I wasn't vocalizing that. I wasn't, because I think there was, again, just some shame with that. Like you're going to talk this big game about the work you want to make, and then you're going to go shoot again, and it's not going to be anywhere near that, you know, like that's embarrassing. Like just keep that quiet and keep working and hope you get that good one day. Yeah. But eventually I think I had a switch of like, no, I want to put it out there that I'm trying to make something more raw, more personal, more intimate, that feels more real, that gets these complicated emotions behind why I want to make this work into the work. And I started being more willing to say that out loud. And yeah, the first day we met, like it was on this just like silly YouTube show where I had a challenge, and they'd send a model over from an agency and they'd do her hair and makeup. And then I'd try and walk around and take some interesting photos with her. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even choose. They were just like, hey, they handed me a folder and they were like, here's your model for tomorrow.
Yes. But this is what I love about you. Okay. This is probably my favorite freaking thing about you, is that you lead open-hearted, vulnerable. You lead with that. It's like, and then everything else follows it. But like, I was stricken by seeing somebody, for when I'm used to, I'm living in Las Vegas. Everything is surface. Everything is just, you have to be perfect. Everything has to come off a certain way. Like you have to you have to have the look. I mean, I was going to freaking auditions in bandage dresses that were like mini dresses, and like my boobs were up to my chin, and everyone was so perfect, and everyone was not saying anything that they were actually feeling. And then I meet you, and you're like leading with all the things that no one says. And I was like, oh my God, this is my person. Like that was like the first realization where I was like,